All right, hello, and thank you for those of you who are live for your patience with our technical difficulties. This is why most of us work in InfoSec, because computers are really hard to use. Thank you to another episode of Cooking with Bryson. Tonight, this is our first couples episode, so I'm going to assume that's why we picked a really fancy steak recipe because it's romantic. So Chris Villasenor and Chris and Darcy Villasenor. I've known them both for a very long time, so it still rolls. And tonight's charity is the Gastric Cancer Foundation, of which they both have generously made a $500 total match. So as always, hashtag us with your pictures, show your donations, and help us hit that match. And Darcy, I know that this charity has a special meaning for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having us on the show to begin with, Bryson. It means a lot to us. Cooking is a passion of ours, so we're happy to be guests on the show. But we picked the Gastric Cancer Foundation as one of our near and dear associations that we wanted to support because my father passed away in 2008 from stomach cancer. So it's one of those things for myself and my family. It means a lot if we can continue to support the organization. In general, you probably hear a lot about the common like breast cancer. There's a variety of cancers, not to upplay or downplay any one of them, but gastric cancer is one of the rare ones, and it's also more common in Asian men. But it's one of those things that the more we can help continue to educate folks, then I think it'll be helping to further solutions for people with cancer so that we can live longer. So that's the reason why we chose this particular organization.
And what are we drinking tonight while we're cooking?
Oh, yeah.
Important question, right?
So we went with a salt. This is from Prisoner Wine. Everybody knows Prisoner Wine, very expensive Zinfandel. This is Saldo. It's also made by them. So for around $25, it's a very good, heavy, rich Zen. We love that wine producer out of California. So we'll be having some of this. In fact, we need a couple glasses. You see Bryson already has a glass poured. So I wanted to spell this.
Well, hold on, I get to share what I'm drinking.
What are you sharing? What are you drinking?
I am drinking a Tempranillo by Ribera del Duero.
Oh, yes.
Very nice.
Oh, we have two Zinfandels. And I want to maybe make a toast here, Bryson, just to get things going. I appreciate everybody joining us. We have two MacBook Pros, a Logitech camera system over here in the kitchen, but the iPad is what worked tonight. But thank you for having us. It's a great event you're throwing, and happy to be a part of it. Cheers. And to everybody out there virtually, cheers. Okay, I want to kick things off by just talking about sous vide in just a very high level. I just started doing this 2 years ago, and it was a little intimidating at first, and then you got to kind of wrap your head around the concept that you're not actually boiling your meat or your protein or your vegetables. Really what you're doing is you're cooking this product in its own flavors, right? So what ends up happening is a couple things. One, it's pretty foolproof. If you have a nice piece of meat or seafood or something, there's really no way you're going to overcook it. We've all had guests over and you've overdone the steak or something. Nobody likes that. Sous vide is a perfect way of doing it, especially if you're going with more pricier stuff. So tonight we're doing Angus filet. So you don't want to screw it up, and sous vide is a perfect way of not doing that. Really what it does is it kind of concentrates the flavors by cooking it in its own juices. A couple other things you have is a much higher consistency in the product. You generally want to avoid mixing oils with your sous vide. So if you looked at the recipe online, you saw really we're using aromatics, thyme, rosemary, sage. These are great things to be using with sous vide, and then garlic and shallots. I like steak, very simple, salt and pepper. And if you saw my thing, what I recommend is salt and peppering your proteins an hour minimally, if not further. I know people that do it overnight. I salt and pepper my proteins usually 2 or 3 hours before I cook them. And so that's what I did with the sous vide here tonight. You don't need to go out and buy a $500 water bath and a vacuum sealer and all this jazz you see on the internet. It's not necessary. In fact, a standard temperature and a pot of water that's cooked to that temperature would work just as well. The one thing you get with these machines though is circulation. And the one I recommend that I'm using is called Julie. And I got this as a gift from my sister a couple Christmases ago. It's fantastic. It's around $70. It's Bluetooth enabled, Wi-Fi enabled, so you can, monitor it, turn it off, start it early, and does an excellent job. Comes with a bunch of recipes in the app. So just to kind of get the ball rolling here, I'll take you over to the sous vide pot. And I'll show you what this looks like here. So I have this basically in its water bath. Now I minimally will go 2 hours. 2 to 4 hours is pretty standard for meat. I wouldn't recommend going more than that. You just don't need it, and you're continuing to break down the muscle tissue of the meat. If you go too long, then the actual protein starts deconstructing a little bit, and yeah, you get mush. Yeah,
you lose that mouthfeel of steak. You don't go more than 4 hours.
Correct. And so I'm around 2 hours, and you can see here now. I'll just kind of show you what we have here. Now here's the meats, and you can see they're kind of in the garlic. I have some shallots in there and some aromatics. And if you don't have one of these things, just a simple screen, go out and get yourself one. So really all I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to take the steaks out. I'm going to let them rest on this rack here. I'm going to move it over here a little bit easier. And we'll see what we got here.
Now, Bryson, I know that you're going to be making this along with us. So have you had your steak cooking?
Mine have gone for exactly 2.5 hours. I timed it.
Yeah, it was about 2 hours, but after our internet dance, it's a little bit more. But you can see right now the steak just looks kind of, yep, there you go. And the thing about this is, again, if you have a vacuum sealer, go for it. But otherwise, you can just use a freezer bag, and just as you lower it into the warm water, you want the water to be set at temperature. We're going for medium rare, which is 134. I set the sous vide to 130. So I want to go ahead and cook it, but I'm going to finish it and get it up the temperature with the grilling. So as you pull the steak out and start resting it on the tray here and drying out a bit, go ahead and move all the aromatics, the garlic, all those little bits. We're going to save those for later.
Yeah, so just I use a Ziploc bag, just a simple freezer Ziploc bag. Yeah, I mean, you don't need to do anything fancy for this.
Correct. And like I said, you know, if you want to start playing with this technique, it's a good way to start. Don't go out and get crazy with this stuff.
I will say, when he first tried doing this, I was intimidated for what he was going out to do, but it's actually way easier than you think. So that's the only thing I would throw out there. And you said the temperature was at 130. Why that temperature?
Yeah, so medium rare is about 134 degrees. So I go to 130 because we're going to sear it on the, if you don't have a cast iron, that is something you do have to buy. You know, I'm a very big fan of cast iron cooking. And when we're going to sear it, we're going to sear about 3 or 4 minutes on each side. That's going to bring up the temperature. And then I'm going to put a foil tent, rest it a little bit, and that should get us to that medium rare perfect temperature that you're seeking. So what you're going to end up is all your aromatics and some of the juices at the in the bag here. That's all good stuff. We're going to keep those flavors. We're going to make a reduction here in a little bit. Yep. Put this aside, please. And you can see here we've got the steaks now, just kind of resting on the tray. And I'll pat dry them a little bit with a paper towel. I see Bryson's already doing the same. So just, you know, the thing about cooking with proteins and the salt I mentioned is by letting that salt sit in there a little bit, letting it kind of let those juices set in a bit more, you're going to get a beautiful crust, which you wouldn't expect with cooking it in this fashion. So I'm just going to give this a pat dry here. Okay, let that dry out on the rock. I can feel it's really tender already. The other thing I like about sous vide when we're cooking this way is instead of having like just medium rare in the center of the meat, you'll get that beautiful medium rare color across the entire fillet. And this isn't something you're going to do every now and then. Make it a treat. Get yourself a nice thick fillet, 1.5 inches to 2 inches is what I recommend. I think when Darcy and I started talking about this cooking show, I think some of our concepts are less is more and high quality.
Simple elegance.
Yeah, simple elegance is another way of saying it. You want to use high quality ingredients. Go, get to know your butcher. Get fresh herbs. We have them growing in little plants here. There's basil right here in the kitchen. We're going to be using a balsamic vinegar. You can get stuff that in vinegars that are incredibly expensive. I would say a minimum of 3 to 4 years aged balsamic is what you need for this recipe. A good wine. You see, we're drinking excellent wines. So high quality, limited ingredients. The other thing I would say is Darcy and I aren't big into like following cookbooks by each, letter of the alphabet, each measurement. We're more prescribers of getting cookbooks, learning techniques, and kind of making it your own a little bit. So, things like Cook's Illustrated, that's a very good book to show you different techniques of how to prepare foods and process things. Simple books for Italian cooking, I like The Silver Spoon. It's just a very high level view of different types of flavor profiles for Italian cuisine, and then kind of improvise and make it your own. What about you? Because you're a pretty big cook yourself.
I would say for me, Chris is more of the protein guy and I'm more of like the vegetable and side dishes. So I like finding some of the other fun vegetable cookbooks. So there's a vegetarian that I follow. Her name's, her cookbook and blog is Oh She Glows. I've also found the Cook's Illustrated Vegetables edition. Clearly there's a theme with the Cook's Illustrated in us. But don't be intimidated, find like that one person that makes really good food and see what they recommend. So I guess for now, I'm gonna jump in while our steaks are resting, is that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So we will, at this point, we are going to start pulling the kale, the curly kale. So I'll be right back once I grab that.
I'm not using kale. I'm just using a mix of spring greens.
Ooh, which kind of greens?
Spring greens.
Spring greens.
So a mix of arugula and red and regular lettuce.
Love it. That totally works.
So any type of salad that you like or vegetable goes a long way. We tend, as just kind of a diet thing, try not to eat heavy starches as much later in the evenings. So in the morning, pancakes, potatoes, whatever. In the evening, we generally would just do something green and a protein. Again, unless we're feeling naughty. So, this is pretty clean cooking and really letting the flavors speak for themselves.
Yeah. I'm personally a fan of kale just because there's a lot of health nutrients that you can get from the vegetable itself. I already went ahead and pulled a bunch of it, but essentially this is what the kale looks like if you haven't seen it before. Some people like to leave the stems in there. I guess you can see it better from this side. I'm personally not a fan of the stems because they're really, really crunchy and give you a lot of bite. So I take those out, but essentially you can pull it along the center portion and just pull it into small pieces. You don't have to make it overcomplicated. Just simple pulling it off the stem would do just fine.
So fun fact, I never ate kale till I met Darcy.
Most people don't eat kale because it has like this bitter, earthy taste to it. And trust me, I'm with you, which is why I'm going to show you how you can get rid of that and still get a lot of really good flavor.
So I was going to take the opportunity that that's proof that, Darcy, that you're good for Chris.
Yeah, right? Well, exactly. I forgot one bowl.
The other thing about kale is it holds up quite well. You can make a giant pot of it like we are tonight, put it in the fridge, and it doesn't really wilt and get all soggy like a lot of salads.
Yeah, so that's another thing. Like, Bryson, you're going to use the leafy greens, which are really fine, but they don't tend to last once you put like oil, vinegar, acid.
Oh no, you cannot dress them and keep them.
Exactly. So this is another great reason why I love this salad. You make it tonight, 2 days from now, we can have it again. We can have it tomorrow. So that's why another reason why I just like to use this. So I got out a bowl, and then I have a bunch of the salad dressing ingredients. So I think that was all in the link that Bryson sent before. Some red wine vinegar, some shallot. I actually just minced a bunch of that in advance into small bite-sized pieces. And to Chris's point earlier about fresh ingredients, you can go to the store and buy like pre-minced garlic. I made an investment in, what is it? It's one of those kitchen gadgets, but it's essentially a garlic press. And having fresh pressed garlic, in my opinion, is one of the important factors when you're making anything in the kitchen. It just takes that flavor up a bit. Also, in terms of, this is one of my favorites. Hey, you've got great taste, Bryson. So we use this olive oil. Costco, you can get it pretty much anywhere. It's a little bit more expensive than, you know, most of the other olive oils, but it's also not the super high end either. So I've got one shallot, 1 clove of garlic. I'm going to be adding in my olive oil. It calls for about 1/4 of a cup. I'm generally the eyeball type person, but tonight I'm going to use some measuring cups for you guys. That 1/4 a cup of olive oil. We have the red vinegar. I find if you mix the olive oil with some sort of acid, so tonight it's the red wine vinegar. My simple go-to salad dressing is also olive oil, lemon juice, garlic, salt, pepper. So depending on what kind of ingredients you have, you can really whip up a salad pretty quick and delicious.
Right, so, and I'll fire up the
cast iron.
Yeah, keep this thing nice and hot.
All right, so Chris is heating up the cast iron skillet on the stove. Another great thing, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, if you have a grill outside and you don't have cast iron, you can use that too.
You can, but with the sous vide, I recommend definitely a skillet. Don't ever want to take away with grilling protein, soaking meat. Love it, but with this particular recipe, if you're sous videing it, because you are cooking it in its own juices, curing is a crust, and that's I count the salting that we've done for it. The quickest way. You don't want to overcook it. Yeah, you don't want to overcook it. So I like to get that crust across the entire surface, and you don't get that with the grilling. Okay. So that's what I would say there.
Good fun fact. You learn something every day, right? So I just threw in my Dijon mustard, salt and pepper. Bryson, I like that you tasted it. I'm a big believer in just taste what you're cooking along the way. If it has like raw eggs and things, you obviously don't want to taste those, but you know, do you like it? Does it need a little bit more spice? I think mine's balanced pretty well. Now, Bryson, you can opt to hold off on placing dressing in there just yet, since you have a different type of green. That would be my recommendation, because this is kale that we're using. I'm going to go ahead and dressing to the greens now. And this is, in my opinion, the most important part of what gets rid of that bitter taste with kale. You have to stick your hands in it, and you have to massage the dressing into the kale. I know it sounds crazy. I tried doing it with a spoon and just stirring it. It doesn't give it the same effect. Like, you will want to see the kale, it'll start to become shiny. I'll see if I can pull a piece. So here's one piece that's still kind of dry. And then I've got this other piece over here. You'll start to see that it's a little bit more shiny. So that's really what you want to look for, and you'll know that your greens are coated, and it will give you a much more balanced, less bitter type of salad. So now I'm going to put this aside, and I'm going to let Chris take you back over to the stove, and he'll start getting the steak going. After that, then we'll do some of the apples and the onions, which I have already gone ahead and pre-chopped. But in case you haven't, while you're listening to Chris grill the steak, you can go ahead and chop some of those things up.
Okay. All right, let's go over here now. So yeah, here we go. We're getting it going here on the cast iron. I'm really got this thing fired up right now. And this is great. You only burn yourself once on a cast iron, but this goes on the end of it right here. If you do that too many times. So I got about a tablespoon of olive oil in there, and then I'm going to add some butter here. Now this, I love this stuff, this Kerrygold. I think
Why do you add olive oil?
For me, I just like to get a little bit of sheen across the pan. And for me, it also kind of doesn't have the cooking factor of the butter. Sometimes the butter in the cast iron right away, it goes brown very quickly, and that layer of olive oil just gives me a little buffer. Is what I find. But I'm going to give a generous tablespoon of this stuff. Love it. Love this butter.
We do use it a lot in our house.
Yeah, and so you can see, there we go.
Beautiful. How are you doing back there, Brayson? How's yours coming along?
How does what coming along?
How's your food coming along? We're doing all the talking over here. We wanted to check in.
I'm following. So I just threw my butter in. I've got my cast iron heating up. A trick that I've learned for cast irons is you can actually put them in the oven beforehand to get them up to temperature.
Yeah.
Since that's the advantage of the iron, and so it holds the temperature, and then you can just start with that.
That's awesome.
That's a great
pro tip.
That's actually really good.
So how did you both meet?
Ooh, yummy.
Well, we might have some friends on the family. We actually met at a wedding. A good friend of ours, Mike McAlpin. If you were at my wedding, you remember that guy's long speech while our food was getting cold.
I couldn't hear you, Chris.
So we've
stand away from the grill a little bit.
So we met at one of our mutual friends' weddings and ended up working together for a few years. We actually worked with your father, Bryson, for a little while. So I guess it's kind of how the crew came together.
Yeah,
good people hang out with more good people.
Yeah, we're definitely a family thing. Now, I met Darcy at the wedding, and we actually both missed our shuttle to the wedding, so we ended up splitting a cab to the event. And then we started talking. Darcy was in sales. We were looking for a salesperson. Introduced her to Roger and Jonas, this guy that was running this human capital firm that I was working at. And I guess you wowed them enough to come on board.
And the rest is history.
So,
all right, so let's do a quick check-in on that steak.
Yeah, so I'm searing. I don't move it a lot. I'm just going to check on it though. Yeah, you can already see. Look at that crust already developing on that. Cool. And that's what I'm looking for. Now,
so you want that smoke.
Yeah, and again, what I like to do now is I'll kind of just leave the pot down, and I'll start rolling some of that butter olive oil compote on top of the tops and surfacing it.
I'm gonna be careful with your hand.
Yeah, of course. You got to be careful, and obviously don't be careful to run it over there. So yeah, I'm just letting those flavors set in a little bit. Yeah, giving a little bit of a toss there. The other thing I like to do is oftentimes with steak, you'll see a little bit of marbling on the side. So I do a little bit of that side sear too. So I'll just hold that up like that for a second and give it a little of that side look. See, Darcy will pick every last piece of fat off. I like to eat a little bit of it. Oh, and there you go. I'm turning on the fan.
So your wedding was one of my favorite weddings.
And we got the fire alarm going off.
Oh, okay.
1 second, I'm gonna mute you guys.
So while they're dealing with that, this is a little bit of a special episode for a couple of reasons. First of all, Chris is one of the first folks that convinced me to let him do a recipe with a special device. I typically prefer it to be recipes that anybody can cook regardless, and we talked about alternatives to being able to do a sous vide. So you don't necessarily have to have a sous vide to be able to do this. So we talked through some of those alternatives. Also, this is our first couples episode, so this is our first time trying it with two folks very much in love, sharing a recipe with us. So there's a lot of firsts here this evening.
Yeah, so now we've turned on the fan. That sear got the place a little smoky. Darcy's doing the dance over here. Yeah, we had a little fire alarm go off there. So that, for me, that's a sign of, I'm heating up a little bit in here. So let's take a look at those beautiful steaks. They're coming to, and yeah, that is super hot. That's what I'm looking for. I want that nice sear. I'm not scared of that. So I am going to pull it aside here now. I'm going to start resting it again. And I'm actually going to put a tinfoil tent over it while Darcy starts finishing up the salad. All right.
That was a close call. That on some more?
Oh yeah. Hey, this is what I'm looking for right here. Look at that. Look at that crust on that. And the flavors are just jumping off the pan here. All right, so yeah, you can run that, and then I'll start making that reduction here.
Okay.
Watch out, that thing is hot.
Lesson learned today is make sure you have your fan on when you're cooking, even if it makes a lot of noise.
Yeah.
All right. So right now we're going to make the sautéed apples and onions that were a part of the recipe that you might have seen online earlier. So I actually like to use just a large skillet. I am not using the one that Chris just used, just as a reference in case any of you are wondering. If you have a good non-stick skillet, I find that you don't need to use any type of oil or butter. Some people are a fan of that, or some people have pans that they stick to. So I had diced up a bunch of my apples in advance. Got a bunch of onions here as well. Thank you. And so I have these on a high heat. Once the oven really, or excuse me, once the skillet really heats up, I'll probably end up reducing it down to about a medium. But as it gets heated, I'll use the higher heat for the time being. One of the things that I will give you like a secret of mine when it comes to making salads, and Chris knows this, it's like a sort of like staple in all my salads, is that you need a nice green, you need something sweet. So today our sweetness is coming from the apples. Sometimes I use dried cranberries. You might see other salads that have strawberries in them. Just kind of think of whatever sort of in season that you can grab from the grocery store. And then the other staple that you want to have is a nut. So tonight we're using pecans. One actual fun trick to do is just toast your pecans or any type of nut.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're using figs.
I have fresh figs from my tree.
Oh, we heard about your fig tree. We need to check this out. I didn't know you had one.
It's awesome.
I have more figs than I know what to do with. This thing is like this year.
Okay.
Now, what what we're doing now is I'm looking at that same pan, and where are my leftovers from the back?
In the sink.
Okay. So you remember these guys from the sous vide? I'm gonna pop them right back into the same cast iron. I've reduced the heat now to medium, and I'm gonna let all those aromatics now kind of simmer up a little bit here. Yeah, there we go.
Oops, you got a bunch more in that corner.
Yeah, I see it.
Chris does a great job of making these like simple sauces that go on top of the meat, and it's just using what you already had.
Yeah, keep that going a little bit here.
So what do? You just saute
Yeah,
those?
so now you see all the beautiful herbs in there. I'm just kind of running them around the pan here. You can kind of take a look at that. You know, all that flavor in the pan, all that flavor from the sous vide, it's all kind of coming together here. Yeah, you can really smell that flavor now.
So how long do you normally let your meat sit for?
10 minutes, minimum 10 minutes. You really got to, let that meat rest. Now with sous vide, it's less critical because it's been cooking so slow for so long. Anything low and slow, you're not going to have that that fibrous meat. When you heat things up, the tissue pulls together, so you want to give it time to release. Because sous vide, slow cooking, smoking is a long, drawn-out process. You don't put so much stress on the protein, but even this will benefit from resting, considering you just seared it. So the meat was kind of in like the hot tub, then I put them in the frying pan, and everything kind of grabbed together. And now I'm just going to let it release a little bit more. And so now you can see this is simmering. And now I'm going to deglaze the pot. Now, always use the same pan you're using before, and I will just throw about a quarter cup of wine in here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there we go. That looks really nice. Look at the flavor color on that.
So while he's been doing that, I've also been stirring the apples and the onions a little bit. I did give them a little bit of olive oil at this point, just to help them along, and I turned down my temperature a little bit. But they're starting to get some of that, little bit of that goldenness, and right now I have to admit it smells like some kind of like Thanksgiving season, apples, onions, rosemary. So if you're thinking of good meals for the fall, this could definitely be one of them.
Okay. And so I'm going to throw another tablespoon of butter into my pot here. You can see it's kind of coming together very nicely.
And so all of that is kind of starting to reduce in the pan.
Yeah,
Huh?
and then I'm going to put some aged balsamic in there.
Which one are you using?
I'm using a Vinaigrette. So this is about 3-year aged balsamic. Oh yeah, that's even fancier right there. Ooh. He's got some good stuff there. Again, balsamic is one of those things you could spend really as much money as you want on it. But you could, this is thick.
As much or as little.
Yeah. I'm putting about 2 tablespoons in here.
Sometime I need to have you all over for like the balsamic that I have in a special box.
Oh, I like the sound of that with those figs too. That sounds amazing.
Well, Jared told me
I have a 25-year-old aged balsamic.
Nice.
Yeah, Jared told me you gave him a nice bottle of balsamic for his birthday.
Yep.
Jared is Carson's brother and one of our good friends.
And this is pretty much done. So I'm just gonna take it off the oven now. I like it thick like that.
So while he's gonna take his sauce off the stove, I'm actually going to now dump in the brown sugar. So I had 2 to 3 tablespoons of brown sugar in the recipe and a little bit of butter. So that's gonna give it like this nice caramelization on the onions and the apples.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll drink wine and you can do this.
So I've got my 3 tablespoons of brown sugar going in the pot, and then I'm gonna steal your butter from over here. Same stuff Chris was using earlier.
And you can see what I've done here is I've just pulled all the aromatics up to the corner, and what's left is this nice rich sauce here that I'll just drizzle over the fillets.
So Bryson, are you cooking your figs or do you serve them raw in salad?
No, I like the figs to be raw. So whenever I think of spring and summer, I really like to highlight fresh and raw vegetables and fruits. Fall and winter, I'll stew them. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I
No,
feel like it sounds like it would be good on like a crostini with some goat cheese and like a little bit of honey. Ooh,
that looks very nice. And do you have some cheese in there too? Is that goat cheese or some kind of cheese?
Yep, it is. Mine is drowned in goat cheese, which is then going to have this vinaigrette over it. I'm happy. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
I'm ready to eat.
Those are the staples. Then you got something sweet, your figs. You've got cheese, so goat cheese, and then a nut. So are you using a nut or not? No.
Nope.
Okay. I would recommend throwing one in, but so now this is all starting to caramelize and get brown. So at this point, you could pull it out just depending on how soft you like your apples. So I know this seems like a lot for a salad, but to me, it's like if you spend a little bit of time cooking your salad, like you do your steaks and your proteins and your pastas, they're quite delicious.
The other thing I like what Darcy does, and I never did this, is that she always generally have a warm ingredient in the salad. And so I think it brings a lot more texture to depth and flavor and so forth. So are you going to throw it all together now?
Yep,
or
I'm going to throw it all together. So now I've got the kale over here. We have some leftover goat cheese. Like I said before, you can use any kind of cheese. We also have like a goat cheese with
garlic and herbs.
Some garlic and herbs. That would be a fine substitute. So don't overcomplicate it. Don't feel like you need to go out and just buy brand new stuff.
It's all about the meat anyway. So.
Okay. All right. So I just take a bunch of the cheese and crumble it up into the salad. And then I've got some pecans over here as well. What are you laughing at? Am I being funny or is that
No,
good?
no, I'm laughing at Chris. Chris is very much 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah.
I love this salad. It's great. It's all about the meat.
The vegetables are great.
They are. I've eaten more salads since being with Darcy than I can count.
All right, so then
She's good for you.
sprinkle in the pecans. Oh yeah, if you also have like candied pecans, I made some last weekend with butter and rosemary and a little bit of brown sugar. They were amazing. So then we just throw these in here and then we're just gonna toss it all together.
I think Bryson's already ready to plate here. He's waiting on us.
All right. Well, let's move, Mr. Villasenor.
All right, hold on. Let me put this down and then we can I get some stuff going here.
And I think we're doing okay on time.
Yep.
Are we good?
We are for starting 15 minutes late.
So the only thing I will say is like we can't see like a chat channel or questions or anything like that. So I guess at the end, Bryson, if there's people that have questions, we could.
Oh, if there's questions, I'll interject.
Okay. I guess that means they're either being entertained or we give good instructions.
All right, you want to
one
put
or,
some?
one of the two.
You want to put some stuff in here, and you can come over. We'll cut the meat. You know.
Where are
Right here.
oh, okay. All right, so I'm gonna plate up a little bit of salad here. Voila.
Yep, just 2 of those.
Sorry, you guys get to walk around our our kitchen with us. Yeah, normally I might let the apples and the onions sit just a little bit before I throw them in the rest of the greens, but it's not going to hurt anything. So Chris will do some cutting of the meat.
Yep. So show them we got this elaborate foil here. Not too difficult.
All right, so that's where the meat's been resting.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I don't know if you can hear that, but you could just really see that crust on there, and that's what I like. Let's come over here to this side. Let me take a look at this thing. So this is kind of the moment of truth. Yeah, and that's what I'm looking
Ooh,
for.
yeah.
It's just really perfectly cooked.
That looks gorgeous. That
Yeah.
is gorgeous.
It's just really, really nice. So, of course, I eat the small one around here. No, I'm joking. I eat the big one.
All right.
All right. Well, do we get to sit down and take a bite, or how does this work now? Because I don't know if I can resist.
So we show our plating with ourselves in the background, and we take a screenshot.
Oh, isn't that nice?
So that's the finale of the show, is we do our group picture.
Oh, cool. All right. So I guess we need to.
Well, take a picture of the plates with there.
We put our picture.
Well, you can show it.
So you got to hold it up with you in the background. There we go.
Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
thought.
Okay. Yeah. So.
We have to actually sit it down then.
Actually, look at. Oh, that looks delicious.
Delicious.
Oh, look at you. Very nice. Oh, I forgot the sauce. Hold on. Stop the press. Let me get my beautiful reduction here. I noticed he put his on there. He was on top of it.
So I don't know if you can see the caramelized garlic there. It's
Very nice. You got a little rosemary garnish on top. I like it, Bryson.
yeah. No, rosemary grows quite freely in my garden. I don't have to do anything for it. Same with thyme. So this recipe was perfect for my herb garden because I have a ton of this stuff that just grows whether I want it or not.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, my mom gave us a terracotta pot with rosemary in it, and it's something that's like the gift that keeps on giving, because like you snip a little bit off, and by the time you're ready to use it again, it's already grown back.
Yeah. Well, give it a couple of years, and you will have a bush that is monstrous.
Yeah, awesome.
And it survives the winters too, so it continues to grow.
All right.
All right, ready?
Turn your thing down a little bit. Yeah. Nope, you're not getting our face.
Yeah, there we go. We need your faces in it.
Okay.
Oh, what's going on? Technical difficulties again. Ready?
No more does.
Hold on. User error here. I was trying to.
We just do one plate. I think it's fine.
It's the one.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. All right.
Wow, beautiful.
All right. Darcy and Chris, thank you for joining us tonight on Cooking with Bryson. Reminder to everybody at home, tonight's charity is the Gastric Cancer Foundation. So we've got a match going for that. Just let us know what you're doing so we can hit that match. Darcy and Chris, thank you for successfully demonstrating how to do this with a lovely couple.
Oh, thank you, Bryson.
Thanks for having us.
And thank you all out there for joining us. I hope everybody's safe and sound. Looking forward to cooking with you guys in the near future, and bon appetit.
Cheers.
Oh, it's time to eat this.